it before it dies. Hurry up, and then it's gonna die.
Watch. I'm shining somebody's eye.
Yeah, it's not really real though. Jace, you're gonna sit, take your cookie too. You can go take your cookie. Jude's already on like his. Hey, hi, good. They, there's cookies back there too. If, like Jude, I think is on his maybe 4th or 5th cookie. So, how you doing?
Doing good.
Good. The, yeah, I've never done this with a PowerPoint, so it'll be a whole new little thing, but we'll see. Yeah, it'll be fun. Yeah. Yeah.
Can I use this thing one more time?
For what?
Hello?
It's not on. So I gotta figure out. So silly question, but like just stand on the side so it's not in my face.
You tell me what side you tend to like to be on. You can go side to side. I don't care where you go.
Okay. Yeah, me neither. I don't care either. I just didn't know. Like, so basically, if it's shining in my face, that means it's on. Like my.
Yeah.
I'm in the way.
Yeah, probably move on.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. Yes. Yes. Who are those for?
How long are you talking about?
I don't know. Like oh yeah, right. No, I think it's like an hour and a half or something. I don't know. Yeah, I timed it today, and it's like it's a little over an hour, and then like I'm related to you. I'll be fine. Have you ever met this one? I'm just kidding.
I wouldn't be up there.
Because then she's talking about you.
No, you'd never get me up there though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not.
I've never done it with a PowerPoint, you know. It's like that's the part I think I'm nervous about. It's just no.
Wait, now you? It's not mine, it's Chase's.
Janet can just double up her plate. There you go. What?
Go.
Go. I like it. I love it.
Wait, is it back?
Who drew it?
Me?
It's very sweet.
Go, Mom. Okay, this here. There you go.
Thank you. See it? Yeah. Go, Mom. That's great. Okay. That's actually the sign. Isn't it funny? I have this like big hike memory box, and I like lugged it out of the attic, and I'm like, what's in here? And that was in there.
That's so cool.
I know, it really is funny. It's like, and this is like, I laugh, but like this is the thing that I slept on all, it's like terrible. It's so funny how flat and, yeah.
How much better or worse your back was?
Oh yeah, I don't know. Yep. I mean, I'll talk about it actually, but I tried to use it. I thought the inflatable one was worth the wait, and so I bought an inflatable one, and it died in like 2 days.
Really?
Yep. Thermarest, like name brand. I was like, so I ended up having that thing.
Can I make a shadow puppet dog?
Real quick, you can.
I'm gonna go probably
Okay.
3 past.
Okay.
Because
For weather and stuff.
but then I'll give you a quick introduction of
Cool.
my.
Okay, and then I just turn this thing on and.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because you gotta wait for me.
Yep.
Can I take pictures?
I guess. Okay, it's 7 o'clock. Sit down.
Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Craig Spicer. I'm with the Wood
nature preserve. I know there's some people that this is their first time here, so I want to welcome you to this awesome facility. We do all sorts of programming out of here. So before you leave today, there are some oak leaf program guides right back there where you got the cookies. I know you probably missed the paper because the cookies were so boring, but I promise you there are some papers back there. Speaking of, big thanks to Mike Armstrong. Should I say ex-professional baker since you're retired? Okay. Mike Armstrong supplied the cookies today, so thanks so much to Mike. There's also some hot drinks back there. If this is your first time here, just want to let you know that the restrooms are right through there. The restrooms are right through there, as well as water. I was a music major. Started in school, so I know how to project. Okay. But I want to welcome you to, this is the 5th of 6 Basecamp Stories talks. If you've been to some of the other ones, you already know that there's an amazing menagerie of people who all want to share their amazing outdoor experiences. However, the point of the Basecamp Stories series is although all of our speakers have gone across the country and doing all sorts of crazy high adventure stuff in the name of outdoor recreation, they all call Northwest Ohio their home. This is their base camp, as it is for you as well, I assume anyway. Unless you're from out of state or something, then geez, welcome, thanks for coming. But I'm going to introduce our speaker tonight, which many of you may already know, but Jodi Harrington grew up in Oregon, Ohio, and resides here again. She's a realtor with Key Realty, good to know.
Yeah, right?
And mother of 2 boys, Jude and Jace.
Woohoo!
Which you've also probably already seen as well. After graduating college, she spent 10 years traveling, visiting every state and every national park. Talk about bucket list. She's already got mine. Some of the biggest adventures include driving her vegetable oil truck to Alaska, circumnavigating Florida on her bicycle, and working at an eco-resort on St. John in the Virgin Islands. Sounds like a full life already. But the adventure she's going to be sharing about today with us took place in 2008. She walked across America on the northern route of the American Discovery Trail, a venture that took 4,100 miles from Delaware to Point Reyes National Seashore in California. I'm not going to be stealing any more of her thunder since she's already bringing quite enough, I'm sure. So everybody, please welcome Jodi Harrington.
We'll get this. There we go. Or do I point it that way? Okay, I don't know. So yeah, he already gave an introduction, but yep, I'm Jodi. I do have 2 boys, Jude and Jace. You've already seen them running around. I'm a realtor for Key Realty, and I always say I'm just kind of like a normal person, but I do love adventure. So I do love talking about this topic. I have never done this with a slideshow accompanying me though, so bear with me. I do think the visuals will help. Here's my hike. So basically, it's a continual through hike across the United States, and as he said, it's from Delaware, so it's Cape Henlopen State Park in Lewes, Delaware, near Rehoboth Beach, and it's across the country to Point Reyes National Seashore, which is about 43 miles north of San Francisco. The hike took 8 months and 8 days, a little over 4,000 miles, and we had no vehicle support. So basically what happened was I've always wanted to hike the Appalachian Trail, so the AT. And I would constantly find myself Googling the AT. And one day I've read books on it. I mean, and one day I just start Googling the AT again. And I found this thing called the ADT. And I've never heard of that. But the ADT stood for the American Discovery Trail. And when I started reading about it, I just thought it sounded like such a cool, diverse experience, like all the way across the country. And that's kind of how it got started. Let's see. No, this way I'm thinking. So basically, okay, yeah. So My favorite way to talk about this hike is by answering questions, so please feel free to keep your questions in mind and ask them at the end. Yep. The American Discovery Trail is a system of recreational trails and roads that collectively form a coast-to-coast hiking and biking trail across the United States. The ADT connects people with rural and urban areas. It incorporates the wilderness of desert, mountains, and forests, and it connects people to people. The total is 6,800 miles. Basically, it's over 4,000 miles either route that you would take. From Cincinnati to Denver, there is a split. So basically, they call it the northern route or the southern route. The northern route goes through Iowa and Nebraska, and the lower route will go through Missouri and Kansas. I could be wrong, but I do think I was the first person to ever continually through hike across America on the ADT following the northern route. And I didn't know this at the time, but it's because it's hard. There's way less towns. The maps are not as accurate as the southern route. And what I discovered after doing it was the northern route was more intended for cyclists. So they could get farther per day and hit towns more often. But I didn't know that at the time. What I did was, so this is the American Discovery Trail, like trailhead marker. So this is not really like a marked trail, but you will, like, all of a sudden you'll be in the middle of like the Rockies, like you're around nothing, and all of a sudden you'll see like a trail marker, and all of a sudden it'll have this sticker on it, and you're like, yes, I'm going the right way. Or you're in the middle of like downtown Cincinnati, and all of a sudden you'll see a sticker slapped on the back of a lamppost, and you're like, sweet, I'm on this trail. So the American Discovery Trail, what they say is that it's 1/3 road, 1/3 wilderness, and 1/3 rail trail and canal trail. That's how they break it down. The truth, while you're hiking it, it feels like 80% road. But that's just because that's kind of probably the most boring but challenging part in terms of just monotony. So, okay. I hiked across America to raise money and awareness for NF. Neurofibromatosis is what NF stands for. It's a genetic disorder of the nervous system which causes tumors to form on the nerves anywhere in the body at any time. NF is more common than cystic fibrosis, muscular dystrophy, and Huntington's disease combined, yet it is not something that's very well known. The charity was chosen because of a good friend of mine, Jeremy Eby. Oop, I went the wrong way. So, okay, I know I often talk about this hike and how it's impacted my life and the things I've learned along the way changed my life, but what I can really say is that Jeremy was a huge part of that. He's a good friend of mine from high school, and he was diagnosed with NF after finding a brain tumor in 1997. He was always so positive. Like, he had headaches, muscle cramps, sensitivity to light. As his symptoms worsened, his pain got worse and he lost his mobility. But every single day he stayed so positive. He'd always talk about me and how I was doing. And I just think about all like the little things, even today, that I get bent out of shape about. And I always remember not to let those things shape me in a negative way, because Jeremy was going through all that he was going through, and he never lost his just positive attitude and like, just sweetheart. I mean, just one of those people. Like, he just never let NF get him down or change the person that he was. So Jeremy and his family drove me out to Delaware to begin the hike, and he also flew out to see us finish. He bought me my little mini 2-pound laptop that I carried along the way, and he kept in touch the whole journey. Like, he was so worried about me the whole time, and he's back home, you know, struggling with everything he's got going on. In 2015, Jeremy did pass away from NF. He's survived by an awesome family and his son, Cole. And even though he's not here today, he has touched so many people's lives for the better, including mine. I could probably talk about Jeremy the entire hour, but I'd probably also just cry the whole time. So I'm just thankful that we crossed paths. Like I said, there isn't a day that go by where he has not impacted the person that I am today. So I definitely wanted to make sure to include him in the talk. the trail it passes through the District of Columbia and then 15 states. And it kind of gives you a little breakdown of the mileage per state. Delaware is a short state, man. You get that done in a day and a half. Kentucky, you dip down in it for just a short time. I think they added it just to throw that extra state in there. But yeah, that kind of gives you an idea. That Colorado's 1,100 miles, but just because it's not a straight hike because you're crossing the Rockies. So when you hike across America, you logistically have to start March 1st from the East Coast. And the reason why is you need to hit the Rockies in July. So in June, there's still snow, and you don't want to wear snowshoes with a backpack trying to walk across the Rockies. So you hit the Rockies in July, and you hit the Sierras as soon as possible. There can be a big snowstorm as early as September or October, and the last thing you want to do is walk that far and not be able to finish your continual through hike across America. So yeah, like I said, logistically there's just a way that you have to do it. Let's see. Oop, I keep doing that. Okay, so this is a funny one. So which state was the most challenging? And what I want to tell you is, so we hit the East Coast in winter, so that was a little harsh. You hit Iowa during flood season. Like I remember family members calling and watching the news and they like, are you okay? I'm like, we're fine, but it's raining a lot. Nebraska, you hit during tornado season, and we legit got rescued by a woman in a green minivan, as we saw a tornado approaching us in I think it was Omaha, Nebraska, and she took us to her basement. In Colorado, obviously you're crossing the Rockies. And then Utah and Nevada, you hit during the summer months. But the answer might surprise you. The most challenging state by far was Ohio, and I am not joking. And those shoes tell you why, right there. So you hit Ohio on the Hike Across America April 1st. What that means, what you're experiencing even right now with this weather, but what that means is it is pouring down rain almost the whole time. And we ended up, when we were walking, it was my shoes were we were just wet, the whole time. Our shoes and socks were just soaking wet. You'd go to bed at night, and then you wake up in the morning, and you're putting back on wet, muddy shoes, and you're trying to keep going. And we did walk, let's see, we walked 28 miles of the Buckeye Trail are incorporated into the ADT, and some of you have probably been down to the Hocking Hills area and hiked the Buckeye Trail, so you may have actually walked part of the ADT and maybe didn't even see the little sticker. But that's the actual trail. There's my hiking partner looking back at me are you kidding me? We felt there were so many pieces of it where we just felt like we were walking in a giant wet ditch. And this is for weeks straight. It was kind of funny, but there's more Ohio trails that is literally on the trail. And again, I don't know if you're supposed to walk Southern Ohio in April, but that's what we got. So yeah, by far, and my hiking partner would agree that Ohio was actually the most challenging state that we had. And another part was, you lose your morale. On the Buckeye Trail, we kept getting lost. I don't even know how to explain it, but they have the little blue blazes, but we kept, I feel like it could be better marked, but it's one thing to walk in stuff like this all day. It's one thing to walk in that and then find out you went 2 hours the wrong way and have to backtrack. Let's see. So preparation for the hike across America. I kind of broke it down into 6 categories. And I'll kind of cover each one of these as we go here. Let's see. So, okay. This one, so I always say this, but the Hike Across America is just full of life lessons that stick with you, and I'll share some of them today. This is a big one. So in the hiker world, there is a saying called hike your own hike. It's mainly known on the Appalachian Trail, so some of you that are familiar probably have already seen this before, but basically there's white blazes on the Appalachian Trail, and there's blue blazes, and there's even yellow blazes. White blazes on the Appalachian Trail are considered you're a purist. You're going to try to hike the trail exactly how it's laid out. You're not going to go anywhere extra. You're going to follow this trail, and that's your goal. The blue blazes mark other parts of the adventure, maybe a side, something you could, divert off to see something cool, or maybe a shortcut of some sort. And the yellow blazes actually mark like a straight up, you can hitchhike and skip a big portion of a trail or something. But I guess what I wanted to say was it's one of those things where it applies to hiking, but it really applies to life, like all of life. A lot of things are not black and white or right and wrong exactly. When it comes to hiking and life, you have to consider what you want to get out of it. You've got to consider what you think is important, and then you have to be realistic about your own limitations. So related to this hike your own hike topic is partners. So there's a short version. I'm going to share the little bit longer version because of what I'm doing today. But when it comes to partners, it all started out, I actually invited one of my guy friends back home, Dustin, to hike with me. It was Jeremy's best friend, and Dustin was like, absolutely, let's do this. And then he invited Kevin, his friend, to also join us. And it was fun, but I always try to say it, I was definitely the one taking it more serious. Like, we didn't even have gear yet, and like we didn't even have a tent. And I remember Dustin bought like a Sasquatch belt buckle. and it's just one of those differences. Just a few days, like less than 3 days before we were supposed to drive to Delaware and begin the hike, Dustin and Kevin approached me to tell me that they wanted to bicycle the middle portion. So they wanted to bicycle from Cincinnati to Denver, and I was crushed. Like, I'm walking every step. Like, that's what I wanted to do. I set up a trail journal. I got sponsors. We had a charity. I bought all the gear. We'll cover it in a second, but I buried water in the desert. And it all worked out, and it kind of goes along with that hike your own hike mentality. They knew they weren't prepared, like the training and whatnot. Their idea was, if they bicycle the middle, then they don't have to hit all the big miles every single day. And the expenses will be less because the time will be shorter. So I understood why they were choosing to do what they did, but it threw me for a big loop 3 days before I was supposed to leave. And like I said, it all worked out. We did head to Delaware together, and that's actually, so we left March 1st. Dustin and Kevin took off February 29th. It was a leap year. So that is actually, I took the first few steps with them on their journey. And we did cross paths a few times, like the first couple of days. We just crossed paths. But I just laugh about the differences in mentality. Like, I was so obsessed with my pack weight. I wanted my pack to be as light as possible. And there's Dustin with a guitar, fishing gear, ninja stars, because he was going to kill squirrels along the way. His pack legit weighed 80 pounds, okay? So Dustin's still one of my best friends today. Louise, his wife, is one of my best friends and workout partners. And I still don't know if I will ever get the full story about their hike. I know they picked up a dog, which also means dog food. Like, I think, at least from what I've heard, there were rumors that they got picked up by a band and they hitched across the whole country as roadies and did make it to California. So I don't know if that's true, but that is what I was told. So again, they were on their own adventure. It just wasn't my adventure, and good for them. It's Dustin and Kevin. Now, in this other picture, so when Dustin and Kevin backed out on me, it was like, well, what do I do? I already had said, if you logistically want to walk across America, you need to start March 1st from the East Coast. Well, there happened to be 2 other people doing that. And Josh and Ron had set up trail journals online. So and I'll talk about it later, but there's a site where you can set up a trail journal. And so I messaged them, and I really used MySpace. I messaged them on MySpace, and that was how I kind of got in touch with them. Let's see. Ron's this one right here. He, let me be clear about this. Everybody hikes differently. Everybody does their own different way of even living life. Ron had previously hiked the Appalachian Trail. He was really good at what he did. just super nice, a super quality person, like just a thinker, but his style was just different. He liked to stop at gas stations for food. He didn't care about the ADT. He just wanted to get across America. He planned on taking more of the southern route where we were going to take the northern route. He just kind of wanted to cut miles and stay on the road instead of sticking to the trail. So when we got to Ohio, we did decide to split up. The 3 different charities, 3 different personalities, it was just too much. The cool part is we met up with him, I think it was near Colorado, but we met up with him for a couple days and we hiked with him mid-hike. And then he finished his hike in September. So, and what's super cool about Facebook is he and his dad came to visit me just a few years ago on their way to a baseball game. So it's kind of fun to see him again. But when people ask me, who did I hike across America with, my answer is a complete stranger that I met on MySpace, because that is what happened. So let's see. Oh, sorry. This is what I mean. I'm not used to the PowerPoint thing. Okay, so I saw his trail journal online, found him on MySpace. I messaged him, and he said, you know what? I planned on doing the hike alone. Why don't we try to do it together and see how it goes? Worst case scenario, we go our separate ways again. So that's kind of what happened. Josh is from Biglerville, Pennsylvania, near Gettysburg. He was hiking across America for the Alzheimer's Association. His mom was diagnosed with early onset dementia at the young age of 52. Okay, I kind of lucked out here. He was a kayaking instructor. He was a skiing enthusiast. He owned his own outdoor gear shop. He was a mountaineering guide. To say I lucked out was an understatement because I had no experience whatsoever. He could read topographical maps. He knew about water filtration. Like I said, lots of things. And let me be clear, I'm the most directionally challenged human being you'll ever meet. C&O Canal Trail, it's in Maryland. It's a straight trail. We're heading east to west. I sit down for lunch. We sit down and eat. I genuinely stood up and I start walking east, and he just looked at me. And he was like, you're kidding, right? You're kidding. I was not kidding. I don't know. I don't know if I would have made it without him. But the funny thing, though, is, I will say, so across America, we did stay with some hiking enthusiasts, or we stayed with people that represented the ADT. And every time we met them, and every time we sat down and talked, and Josh and I talked about the hike and whatnot, they would all look at Josh, and they would go, you know what your biggest asset is? And he would go, what? Her. And what they're saying, I mean, I'm kind of outgoing, and I think that people were very receptive to us along the way. I think it helped to meet a girl in pigtails, walking, and I do think that together, our experiences together were good, and we were really good hiking partners. So that was who I walked with. What we did was we decided to blanket our charities under one message just to make everything more cohesive. So Josh had already kind of called it Hugs for Humanity. The mission statement was hiking and hugging across America, promoting healthy, peaceful, simple living. The hugs were free, but we accepted donations to raise money for the NF Foundation and the Alzheimer's Association. So legit, this is it. Like, that was on my backpack, like right there, 8 months. Yeah, Josh carried like a banner, and it was like up over his head, but the wind, like he lost so many banners across America. So yeah, that was smarter, but maybe not as noticeable as Josh's banner. I was not about to get blown away. So yeah, that's what we did. Okay, training. To be clear, and this is what I want you guys to think big. Like, just think big about life and what you want to do, because when I decided to hike across America, I had never hiked a day in my life. Like, that was one of those things where I knew nothing. So I was like, I'm gonna do this. So I filled a backpack with weights, like a normal book bag, like a book bag. And I walked around Pearson Park. And I remember my shoulders hurt so bad because I did not realize what the strap around your waist was for. And it was huge relief on all that weight on your shoulders. So anyway, I was amazed by a real backpack. I was always a runner, so I was, I was fit, but I did go on numerous hikes all over Oregon. My son actually wants to walk across Oregon. Jude, that's actually the spot where we're gonna start, okay? That's it, I didn't even realize that until just now. Friends joined us. We walked all over Toledo and Oregon. Like, it was fun. But to be clear, we also live in very flat Northwest Ohio. There was no training for the mountains, like none. I was never prepared. I felt like I never got acclimated. I grew up here. So it was definitely challenging. People also, I thought it was funny. Everybody talks about how flat Nebraska is. And so I was so excited, like, here we go. We're gonna get to Nebraska and it's gonna be easy walking. And then I remember being so excited, and then I got to Nebraska and it's rolling, like it's legit like rolling hills the whole time. And I was so disappointed, like whoever defines flatness in America needs to visit Northwest Ohio, because it's not Nebraska. So yeah, very, very little training. Sponsorship and trail journals. So I did set up a website. It was trailjournals.com/ADT4NF, and I carried a little mini 2-pound laptop, thanks to Jeremy, and kept a journal going. A lot of people followed my hike, and it was fun to share it along the way. And this is like, before social media of today. I remember I actually got a Facebook page because I was going on this hike. Like, it wasn't really a thing yet. I carried little business cards, and I think that also helped too, just to show like legitimacy. Like, people could look us up real quick and see that we were really doing what we were saying. We did have sponsors and numerous donors. Merrill and Coleman actually sponsored me with gear in support of the NF Foundation. So Coleman gave me backpacks and my actual sleeping bags. Merrill gave me clothing and shoes. So, talking about gear, clothing is the next topic, and I'll talk about it in a second, but we mailed out hot and cold gear at different times. It just made sense. So it was not about fashion. I used to joke with Josh every day. I would go, do you want me to wear my yellow shirt or my yellow shirt? And legit, this was it. Like, this was my shirt. Like, that's what I wore, just a lightweight something, that was breathable and dried. It is very faded now. And then the other thing I found funny was I bought these like zip-off pants, and I thought, how cool, I'll wear shorts sometimes, I'll wear pants sometimes. And what I found to be interesting was I ended up wearing the pants the whole time. Like, it was, when you had long pants on, it keeps the sun off of you, it keeps the dirt off of you. You just stay so much cleaner when you have long pants on. And then the ticks, there were so many ticks. So it was just funny because I pictured using these more, but I ended up just wearing pants the whole way. The other funny thing about gear, again, being so inexperienced, was I thought I just needed the biggest, thickest socks ever. Like, I thought that's what hikers wore. And luckily, a couple expert hikers set me straight before I left. You actually don't want thick and heavy socks. You want to wear like the thinnest sock liners that you can possibly get. I got these at Woodville Surplus. Foot health is so important on a long hike like this. And I didn't think about it, but every time you take a break, you take your shoes off, and you let your feet and your socks dry out. That's what you do. And so yeah, no heavy socks, just these lightweight little sock liners was what I ended up hiking all the way across the country with. And I didn't even get a blister. Like, that was perfect. I know, yeah. So, let's see. Okay, so there's a joke in the hiking world, but when it comes to pack weight, you can choose to enjoy hiking or camping, but not both. On this hike, it was all about the hike. So before the hike, I pictured campfires every night, and I pictured these campsites. And I'm gonna tell you, on the hike across America, I think we had 2 campfires. And that was only because we already met somebody that already had one going. Like, when you're walking all day long, the last thing you're gonna do is collect any wood. All you're gonna do is, I got actually so good at it, I could actually sit on the ground make my whole dinner, set up my tent, change my clothes without moving. Like I was able to set up my tent like without moving because my feet were so tired. But yeah, pack weight was a big thing. Every single night I just ate, I journaled, and I slept. So gear, again, we're going to talk about supplies. Again, the mail drops as needed. So when you walk across America, like you're literally walking and just thinking, what else can I do to lighten my pack? And there's a joke in the hiking community about cutting the handle off your toothbrush. I cut the handle off my toothbrush. There was a point when we were walking where I was like, the tags and all my clothing. I cut off every tag and every clothing, and I piled them in my hand, and I was like, yes, my day is gonna be lighter because I cut every tag out of my clothes. So yeah, that really happened. Even this, duct tape. Duct tape's amazing. Like you can use it for so many things. Even my hiking partner kept getting blisters. He would just put duct tape on top of his blisters. But you don't want to carry a whole roll. So I just did this. I put it around a pen. And this is literally the exact duct tape that ended the hike. I found it in my gear. But yeah, that's how I carried duct tape, was just wrapped around a pen. So gear, this is kind of the gear page about camping and backpacking. So trekking poles, I have them over here. Oh no, they're up here. But yeah, my trekking poles right here. I thought they were amazing. Like they kept a little cadence while you're going. I felt like they took some of the weight off of your back. Even hiking in the mountains, I felt like it helped you with your footing. But I found it funny because Ken and Marcia Powers, they're a famous couple in the hiking world. They did what's called the Grand Slam. So they hiked the AT, the Continental Divide Trail, and the Pacific Crest Trail, and they hiked the ADT. I think they did it in their 50s, like everything they did. So anyway, they cannot stand trekking poles. And I was like, how can you not stand trekking poles? Like, I just think they're the best thing ever, but they felt like it was just extra weight that they didn't need. I disagree, but whatever. And then the backpack I just carried, I did carry a few different ones. Part of it, I just felt like mentally it was good to switch it up. They just felt a little bit different, get a little bit of a break. Sleeping bags, I actually used, these are my 2 actual sleeping bags. So this is the lightweight, this is the lightweight one that we had mailed out, like in the desert. And then this is one, so 40 degree, and then this is a 20 degree bag that's a little bit heavier that we use like in the mountains and on the East Coast. And again, when I got to that point, I'd have my brother mail me, and I'll talk about that in a second, but yeah, we mailed those out. The other funny thing, I think, I was all about, and again, I was obsessed with pack weight, and I thought that a Thermarest was worth it. Like, I wanted a good night's sleep on that ground. So I did spring for the inflatable sleeping pad, and it lasted 2 days. Like, I was laying on the ground, I was so mad. So I ended up using like this little tiny little egg carton, egg crate type. It is not comfy, but it's so warm. But that's the actual one that I used all the way across America. And then, let's see. So the jogging stroller is on the end right there. It was so amazing that it warrants its own slide later on, so I will talk about that. Okay, so I found this funny. In preparation for this hike, for this talk today, I started thinking about it, and this is before smartphones. So when I walked across America, it was back when, and some of you are not even going to remember this, but it was when we had free minutes after 9 and on the weekends. I had this little flip phone right here. That's my phone. My son just saw this phone and he said, is that a car key? So yeah, this was my phone. I kept it turned off in a Ziploc baggie the entire hike. But I started thinking about it. And I'm like, man, with smartphones today, again, pack weight obsessed, I am pack weight obsessed. What would this have done? So a smartphone today, I kind of did like a a little thing here. 6.8 pounds right here. Like that's what a cell phone today would replace. I had my camera with a charger. The charger was this big thing. Like I'm carrying that. My music, a compass, my colored, this was like high tech, like colored GPS. My watch, chargers, rechargeable batteries, even the headlamp, a laptop. Even the turn-by-turn directions I could have put in a smartphone instead of carrying these booklets. So it is funny to think about pack weight. And we were just talking before this presentation, I'm like, well, but then you're relying so heavily on a cell phone, and throughout so much of the hike we didn't have a signal, but now I guess that you can hook your cell phone up to a satellite, so you really could replace all this stuff. On a side note, though, I am thankful. Like, my phone was turned off in a Ziploc baggie my entire hike. And I think what that allowed was I was connected to my hike, I was connected to my partner, the people that we met, the surroundings. I admit, if I was on the hike today, social media, like, doing the thing, I'm thankful that I actually did experience the hike without social media of today. But 6.8 pounds is hard to pass up. I think I would have taken my smartphone over all that. Let's see. So mail drops. Did you know that you can mail yourself something to any post office in the United States? It's called general delivery, and they hold it for 30 days. So what I did ahead of time, do you recognize the house?
Yeah.
Was that your bedroom? Was it yours? Do you know? Yeah. So I was at my grandma's house. Those are my mail drops. And what I did is I prepared these boxes ahead of time. When I was about 2 weeks out from a town and knew I needed gear or supplies, my brother would go over and mail me, I lettered them, A through K or something, and he would mail me the correct box. And so basically, like, if you think about it, like, you need Q-tips and shampoo and conditioner, and you need razors, and you need, toiletries, you need vitamins, but you don't necessarily want to carry like a whole bottle of vitamins or a whole thing of you don't want to buy Q-tips along the way or big bottles of shampoo. So what the mail drops allowed me to do was to divvy that stuff up ahead of time and then mail it to myself. It was cost efficient, weight efficient. It was a good way to do things. And then that was also the time where I did things like I switched out shoes, I switched out sleeping bags. I have several, they're on the floor, but I have several different coats. I switched out different coats depending on the temperatures. But yeah, mail, general delivery. It came in handy, and it was good preparation. So this one's fun to talk about. So to walk across America, the towns across Utah and Nevada are sparse. So you have to think through water. I call this the prelude to the hike. I went out west and buried water before the hike. So there was so much kindness. There were so many memorable stories. I had no clue what I was doing, but it all worked out. So what I did was I left the day after Christmas, and there was a winter storm. And again, I knew nothing, you guys. Like, I thought the desert was warm all year long. So I took a pickaxe, and I thought, oh, there might be rocks. I might have to pick through some rocks. And I get out there, it's single digits. There's snow everywhere. Like, I swung my pickaxe on the ground, like the very first hole, and the head broke off because the ground was so frozen. So anyway, I went out there, and I'd never used a GPS before. I used a 3-point system for the water. I dug the hole, I wrote down the GPS coordinates. I used a marker, so like I would take a rock or a piece of litter and I would put it on top of my, cache, and I would write that down. And then I also marked something. So I made like a symbol, like on the back of like the rail along the road, or a sign or something, to kind of indicate where each one of my markers were. So every 15 miles across Utah and Nevada, I dug one of these holes. And I put my name on every single one, and I kind of put what we were doing. And that was kind of what happened. It was an adventure all in its own. people stop me and the looks I got. Like, here's this girl out in the middle of the desert digging a hole. Like, people thought I was either bearing a body or treasure or something. Police stopped me. There was one in front of a Nevada state prison that I had to dig a hole, and I got stopped. My car got looked into. I'm like, no, it's just water. Like, digging a hole in front of a prison. But yeah. And like I said, it was an adventure. There was one time I was driving this trail in the middle of winter, and I had to turn around, but I couldn't. I had to drive backwards in my Cougar 3 miles, like just backwards, just to find a spot to like turn around. But I rang in my New Year's in Milford, Utah, in a diner, and I spent a lot of time there just trying to stay warm, like in just different diners out west. A Mormon road blazer named Robert, I met him at a post office, and he helped me in Utah, and the GPS coordinates were wrong in the ADT directions or whatever, but we drove around for hours one day just in the middle of Utah trying to figure out where to bury this water. And anyway, my most memorable story from the burying of water was on the Kokopelli Trail. So the Kokopelli Trail is a trail that people have to get rescued on every year. Like, it's a legit hard trail out there. And here I am in a 2-wheel drive Mercury Cougar in the middle of winter, and I had 2 more caches to do, and I wanted to get them done. So it was starting to get dark, and I come up on this sign. The sign said, 4-wheel drive required. And I'm like, oh, that's optional, it's fine. So I start driving down this trail, and again, it's dark, it's getting dark. So I'm looking at my GPS, so I'm driving like this, looking at my GPS, following the little arrow, and I keep glancing up, while I'm driving, and there's white. So it's dark out, so you could just see white, the snow, I could just see it. I'm driving, and I don't know if any of you watch The Office, but there is an episode where Michael Scott is obsessively staring at a GPS while driving, and he drives straight into a river. That was me, that close. I was driving, looking at my GPS, driving, and I glance up, and instead of the white snow, I see black. I'm like, black? And I slam on my brakes, I slid down this hill, and I was this close to ending up in the Colorado River. And so I don't know what to do. My car's stuck. There's no getting out of that. So I got all my clothes on, like all the clothes that I had, and I grabbed my sleeping bag, and I grabbed a flashlight, and I left a note on my car, and I actually wrote like Jodi Harrington, I put like where I was from, and I put the date and the time, and I put the year. I was like, I don't know who's gonna find me or my car. So I walked 6 miles in the dark, and I remember, again, I know nothing, so I see like airplanes, and I'm like flashing them with my flashlight, and I'm like, maybe somebody will save me. So I walked 6 miles in the dark, and I get to the road. And you don't feel excited about getting to the road because there's nothing there. So it's like the middle of nowhere. So I start walking along the road, and all of a sudden a car comes. So I like flag down this car, and they turn around, and super cool. It was this young group of kids going to ice climb in Moab, Utah. So they pick me up, and I look back on this and I just think, I don't know why I thought this was all okay, but they just dropped me off at the nearest house we saw with lights on. And there are like hardly any houses out there. So, and I think in my head now, if I ever did that with somebody, I'd make sure they were okay before I pulled away, but the kids didn't. They just dropped me off, and I walked up, and boy, did I luck out. So here I am in the middle of the desert, like there's a house with lights on. And I walk up to that door. I don't know who I'm gonna get. And I met Jennifer and her dog. Within 5 minutes, she had my socks in the dryer, and she gave me blueberry tea. And not only was Jennifer and her dog, like they totally were so hospitable towards me, but she had chains. So she took her Subaru, and we went out and found my car in the dark, and she tried to get my car up the hill. We got it like halfway up the hill, but we weren't gonna get it. So we ended up going back home, and her neighbor, 22-year-old Terrell, had a truck with better chains. So Terrell got my truck out, or my car out, sorry, 2-wheel drive Cougar, and he got it up the hill, and what was super cool was on the actual hike across America, so that was in December or January. So in the actual hike across America, August maybe, We're walking down the road in the middle of Utah, and who pulls up? A white truck, and it's Terrell, you know? Like, it was so cool. So anyway, like I said, the bearing of water was like a prelude to the hike, and it was an adventure all of its own. Super cool. So, oh, sorry, there was the Kokopelli Trail. There's the river I almost ended up in. But yeah, that's that. So, gear weight. So when I started the hike, my pack weighed 34 pounds. So after 1 month of walking and cutting the tags out of my clothing and getting rid of whatever I could, I was down to 30 pounds for my pack weight. During the summer months, I could get my pack all the way down to 22 pounds. During the winter months, I was at 25 pounds. And you see the little asterisk. When Josh and I calculated pack weight, we used 2 liters of water and 4 days of food to keep it, you know, consistent. Hiking into the longest no-town stretch in the Rockies, I carried in the low 40s. Like I was 42, 44 pounds because you just had to have so much more food and then heavier gear. And then a hike lesson that stuck with me even to this day is just, I'm reminded of how little I need to be happy. Like, I was literally living out of a 20-pound backpack and super happy. Like, stuff's cool, I have a lot of stuff, but like, it's not what makes life the meaningful thing that it is. So again, it's just one of those things that like, I still think about every day. I'm like, just that 20-pound backpack and just how happy I was. See if that, oh. So sleeping stats, number of nights in a shelter, 6. So that means like we got to a park and we found, you know, picnic tables that we could just kind of shelter, something to lay under. We spent 103 nights in a tent, 5 nights under the stars, like it was just so nice, no bugs, we didn't need the tent. 29 nights in a hotel, 8 nights in a hostel, 101 nights in a house. And one night, thanks to California, we spent 1 night on a houseboat. And this is another hike lesson that I'll never forget. Every night we had a place to lay our heads. There was no need to worry. It all worked out every single night. And I guess, like, what I want to say about how that stuck with me is this. Like, it was deliberate. Like, I didn't know where I was going to be at the end of the day. I definitely didn't know where I was going to be the next day. So there was no, you couldn't worry. You couldn't worry about where you would be 2 or 3 days from now because you didn't know. And you didn't stay in the same spot. So it was just one of those things where all of a sudden, like several months into the hike, we were like, huh, every night it just works out. And I don't know if you guys really know how much that like impacts who you are, but like, I was just at my New Year's party and somebody was like, how do you not have anxiety? Like I do a lot, I handle a lot, I work a lot, I have my boys. And I was like, I just don't. And I actually think about this hike. Like, if I made it across America 8 months and every single night I was safe and I found a place to lay my head, like, there's no point in worrying about the things that aren't in your control or like, I don't know, it's just one of those things I really think about all the time, and I'm kind of thankful for it because it's kind of shaped the way I look at life today. Life works out. So let's see, the next one. Okay, that's another one. Let's revisit this one. 103 nights in a house. And then another unforgettable lesson is the kindness of people. And this is what I want to ask all of you today. You can picture me, but if I came up and knocked on your door at 7 o'clock at night, and I asked to put up my tent in your backyard, would you say yes? I would. I mean, I would let somebody put up a tent in my backyard, absolutely. But would I invite them in? Like, I'm going to tell you, and I mean this, 103 nights, we knocked on doors and said, we're hiking across America, here's a little business card, you know, I had pigtails, you know, can we put up our tent in your backyard? And not one person, not one, turned us away, not one. And what blows my mind is that the majority of people said, sure. Do you want to sleep in a bed? You know, we just made dinner. Do you want to eat with our family? Do you want to shower? Do you want laundry? Yes, yes, yes. But like, it blows my mind. Like, people gave us their car keys. Like, people said, do you want to run into town and get some supplies? Here's my car. people, like, after meeting us for one evening, like, and I'm tired, okay? Like, I talked to you for about 30 minutes and I'm gonna fall asleep. But one evening, we'd wake up in the morning. This happened multiple times. There'd be a note on the counter. I had to go to work. Help yourself to breakfast before you leave. Like, my brain is wired differently now, and I mean this. Like, I don't watch TV, I don't watch the news. I literally see people, and I see the kindness. Like, I see it in their eyes. It's this thing that I hiked this a while ago now, 2008, but I hope that does not go away. These people, the Green family in this picture, and their dog, like, have changed my life. The kindness of people, and all I want to do is just pay that forward with my interactions with people. So super cool, 103 nights in a house, and like I said, I mean, just incredible stories. Okay, let's see. Still getting used to this thing. Hiking stats. So our daily goal was 25 miles a day in the flatland. That was our goal, 25 miles a day. Mountains are way harder. 16 miles a day was a full day. The hike total was almost 4,100 miles. The number of days was 253. Number of 0-mile days was 33, and that included what's called Neros. So a Nero is like, sometimes Neros are planned, like you're almost to your destination but didn't make it, and you need to get gear or supplies in a town, so you only hike 3 miles that day and spend the day resupplying. Sometimes Neros happen because you just have a bad day. So you hike 5 miles and you call it a day. But yeah, 33 of those days. We spent 220 days hiking, and the longest section with no days off was almost 1,100 miles, 52 days nonstop. So yeah, that's kind of cool. People did ask, and it was really funny, like people would be like, what'd you do if there was bad weather? We walked. What'd you do if you were sick? We walked. What do you do if, you were tired or hot or hungry? You walk, like that's what you're doing. Oh, it was a tornado, we walked. We did, I know.
Would you have to walk?
Wait till the end. You, Jude. My son asked a lot of questions. The first slide where I said that about the questions was for him. They wait to the end. So, but I will say I was fortunate. Like, I was not sick once. Not one sickness, not one injury, nothing. Like, I joke I'm like pretty durable or something, I don't know. But I was tired, my feet were sore. Like every single day when I went to bed, I thought, that's it. I'm done. Like tomorrow, I just can't do this again. And every day I woke up and was like, yeah, I can. So I don't know, it just worked out. Daily routine. Okay, there were really bad bugs. Like there were days when I ate my meals like that in my tent because I was like, I just am tired of getting bit up. But the daily routine was you hike 3-hour intervals, 30-minute breaks with your shoes off to dry your feet. And the goal was kind of to do 3 of those a day. Nothing was too rigid, but we were definitely focused. The deadlines, there were daily deadlines. Like, so when you hike in the mountains, you spend the morning hiking to get above tree line and get over the top. And then your goal is before the storms roll in every day in the mountains. So the goal was to get back below tree line before afternoon. So there were always daily deadlines. Towns were deadlines sometimes. But, and then the California deadline, that whole cross the Rockies in July, hit the Sierras as soon as possible. Like that was in your head the entire way. Hit the Sierras as soon as possible. The last thing I want to do is walk all the way to California and then have to go back to Ohio without finishing. So yeah, that was kind of how that worked. Let's see, food. We had no stove. When we started the hike, Josh had a stove with fuel. I was like, like I'm not a good cook here. But, so no stove. I did not want to mess with the pack weight or mess with the fuel. So what I did before the hike was I kind of researched and thought through like what foods could set up on their own in just water. Very boring, but it worked. Peanut butter, oatmeal, couscous. You put couscous in water for an hour or 2, it sets up just like you heated it. Whole wheat pasta, kind of gross, but still did it. Powdered milk, dried fruit, and nuts. You want calorie-dense food that makes the pack weight worth it. So those were like the foods that I lived off of. We barely ever ate out. All the money that we raised went to charity, so we were trying to do the hike as cheap as possible, like out of our own funds. I don't think I ate out once. Like I know Josh a couple times had to break down, but Yeah, I barely ever ate out just to keep the cost down. We stopped at grocery stores, and then we used the mail drops along the way. When you do stop at a grocery store, though, you eat like tons of fruits and vegetables. Like I'd eat like a whole thing of peaches, like all at once, you know, just to kind of stock up on that fresh fruit and vegetables that you don't get on the hike. Speaking of food and looking back, I will say this is funny. So there were towns that we hit where people were expecting us. So what they did was they planned a meal for us. Everybody made us spaghetti. Everybody. Like, and I'm going to tell you right now, when you're walking across America, the last thing you want, when all you're eating is carbs, is spaghetti. And it was like, I know what people are thinking. You're a hiker, you want carbs. But the truth was, like, if somebody, I would like get like a tiny portion of spaghetti and eat like this giant side salad because I just wanted something fresh. People meant well. I know they meant well when every single person made us spaghetti. I told you the stroller would get its own slide, and it does. So the stroller was amazing. We were worried about water caches. I had gotten a phone call, or actually it was a message, I don't know what it was, I forget now, but somebody had messaged me, and he was also walking across America doing something kind of different. BJ Hill, he was walking to deliver a message to the next president of the United States, whoever that may be, so that was 2008, and he sat down, and it was Obama, and he sat down in the road and leaned back, and his hand hit a compromised water cache. And he dug it up a little bit more, and he saw Jodi Harrington. So he put a message out, I forget how, but he was like, does anyone know Jodi Harrington? I found his water cache. Yeah, and then ended up finding out it was me. And we ended up keeping in touch the whole way. He sent me like a Rubik's Cube and a harmonica, and good dude. We still keep in touch thanks to Facebook. But he found one of my compromised caches. I buried water next to the historic Dewey Bridge out west. It burned down. So my water cache also burned. And long story short, we just decided that water was too critical to risk it. So we wanted to be able to carry all of the water that we needed. Crested Butte, Colorado, we got a stroller. And we carried it all the way to Carson City, Nevada. In Milford, Utah, so about halfway, we actually added those wheelbarrow handles, game changer. Like, so instead of walking like this, you're just walking like this. I mean, it was, and I'm gonna be very, very honest with you. I said I'm gonna be honest, which is why I'm including this other picture. I actually do not recall pushing the stroller. Like, Josh pushed the stroller the whole way. I realized that I could walk across America and read books. So I walked across the desert. If you put your arms like this, it keeps it from bouncing. And I literally walked across the desert, like, reading books. So that is, if you saw me on the road, that's what I was doing. I admit it. Josh pushed all the gear. So the other super cool thing about the stroller was the pack weight. So we were able to carry the stove again. We had canned goods. Oh my gosh, your whole meal plan opens up. You got canned goods, you got fresh stuff, books. We had so many books in our stroller. So super cool. When we got to Carson City, Nevada, we had talked about it ahead of time, and we said, that's it. When we get to Carson City, we're gonna leave the stroller. So we get to Carson City, and we stayed with total random strangers. And we thought, oh gosh, could we push it a little farther? Because when you hit the Sierras, you gotta get rid of the stroller. You can't push a stroller across the mountains. But we thought, man, maybe we could push it a little farther and then get rid of the stroller. And I'm sitting in these random people's living room, and I look down, and on their coffee table is what to expect when you're expecting. So they were expecting their first baby. So we decided that was our call. We left the stroller with them, and I'm assuming they took the wheelbarrow handles off, but I hope they actually used it. I think they did. So yeah, so we left it there in Carson City. Okay, I get this question a lot, did we cheat? And I will say, Josh and I stuck to a motto, and we said it time and time again. If we cheat once, we will cheat 1,000 times. So no. We did initially want to hike perfectly white blaze. There are no white blazes on the ADT, but white blaze, the entire ADT. But we found that was not really practical or possible. So the ADT comes with a series of these booklets, legit like turn by turns with GPS coordinates for every single turn you'll make all the way across the country. It is nuts. It's an amazing resource, but it's also not perfect. So what we found hiking across the American Discovery Trail was the idea that we could conceptually follow these booklets the entire way. Not gonna happen. There were times where we had to make our own alterations and whatnot, but we did walk every continuous step across America. And what we would do is, so like let's say we had to hitch into a town to get groceries, or we had to hitch into a town to get, like go to a post office. What we would do is we would hitch back to the same spot, touch it, and then keep walking west. And we met people that apparently didn't understand what we were doing, and they would take us from the post office back to the trail, and they would go, hey, I'll just drop you off up here a mile or two. And we would say no, and they would insist on helping us out by dropping us off 2 miles up the road. We would get out of the car, and we'd walk back, we would touch our spot, and then we would head back west. So if you're ever picking up a hitchhiker who's walking across the country, drop them off where they say they want to be dropped off. But yeah, we walked every step. Like that was a big deal to us, and we did it. So, was I ever scared? So in Iowa, Josh and I wanted to experience what the hike would be like by ourselves. So in Iowa, we split up for a few days. So I walked one road, he walked another road. And I wouldn't say I was scared, but it's just different. You're just more nervous. Like if you twist your ankle by yourself, I mean, that's a serious thing. If you twist your ankle with a hiking partner, you're gonna be okay. I also, so I'll talk about this too. So Josh in Crested Butte, Colorado went home. Josh said he was homesick. He wanted to see his mom. I'm thankful, I know he's thankful that he went home because he said that was probably the last time that he saw his mom where she actually recognized him. But he went home and said he was going to quit the hike. So I thought in Crested Butte, Colorado that I was going to have to walk the rest of it all by myself. So I kept going. Luckily, he changed his mind and came back. And in Green River, Utah, he met back up with me and he continued the hike with me. During that stretch, like, I'm just nervous. Like, you know, I'm a female, I'm walking all day long by myself. I mean, you can obviously kind of see what I'm doing. You might not understand, but, and then like, in the middle of the desert, you're trying to like, there was no, how to say this? There was no getting off the road far enough to not be seen. So it was like setting up my tent and feeling like, if anybody drove by, in the headlights, they're gonna see my tent. And so I was just more nervous, I guess, I don't know. Where when you have a hiking partner, you're like, right off the road, like here's my tent, I'm not walking any farther, like this is where I'm gonna sleep tonight. So yeah, was I scared? I was nervous when I was by myself. The other thing too is like, just experiencing it with somebody is so much more meaningful. Like, it was, so Jared, did you just walk in? I didn't see you until just now. Jared helped train with me too. He walked around Oregon. I talked about that earlier. Yeah, it was just one of those things where I was more nervous, and it's also just more meaningful to share it with somebody. It was lonely by yourself, like just walking all day. So animals, everybody, like, you know when you hike, people always talk about like hanging their food, like hanging up their food bag. Mine was my pillow. I slept on my food every night. Like, we were not worried about animals. I don't know if we were just too tired to care, but we did not hang our food. In the desert, we went to sleep every night with coyotes. I mean, we could see them. I'm just, okay, whatever. They want to eat me, I'm tired, like fine. But no, we did not, nothing really bugged us except for this one story. I think they're goats. I started to think about it today. I'm like, I've always called them mountain goats. I think they're goats. But anyway, so I told you, when you hike the Rockies, you spend the whole morning hiking up. Your goal is then to get over the peak and back down below tree line before the storms roll in. So we spent the whole day hiking up. We get to the top of this mountain, and I see these cute little baby goats. And I remember just being like, oh my gosh, those are so cute. And I get out my camera and I take a picture. And then all of a sudden I see that goat. We had no cell phone signal, like none. We were in the middle of nowhere. It had been days since we'd seen anybody. And all of a sudden that goat sees us. And I'm like, I think we're okay. I was like, should we just make some noise? So Josh takes his trekking poles and starts like beating the ground. And all of a sudden this goat just starts coming towards us. Now, goats don't need the switchback trails. So humans walk the switchback trails all day. Goats just go, so I see this goat like coming towards me, and I'm like, okay, I think I need to go back down. The last thing I want to do after hiking up all day is go back down. So I was reluctant. Josh was like, no, we gotta go. So we start walking the switchbacks. We turn around, that goat's gaining on us because it's not taking the switchback. So all of a sudden, Josh, mountaineering guide, skiing enthusiast, he just starts like sliding down the shale, like just sliding down the side of the mountain. So I was like, okay, I gotta do something. So I got on my butt and just slid down this mountain, like on my butt, trying to get away from this goat that's apparently gonna attack us. And luckily, I mean, I think about this. This is the only shack we saw across the entire Rockies. There was this little shack. It was this little wooden shack. There was no door, and there were rafters, like a loft, and it had this like mattress, like with poop on it. It was so gross. But like we go into this little shack, we jump up on this poopy mattress, and Josh takes his trekking poles like he's gonna stab the goat or something, I don't know. And we barricaded the door, and this goat comes and just starts ramming this little shack. And I'm like, that's it, this is our death. Like, we're gonna get impaled by a goat. So we barricaded the door, and then the goat like knocked the barricade over, and his little, like, goats have the eyes like kind of on the side of their head, and he like peeked in, his little side eye staring at us. But he knocked over like a piece of metal, and it scared him, I think, I don't know. And he ran away, he went away. So we did not want to go back up again. So I was crying, I'm crying, because I'm tired. The last thing I want to do is re-walk down where I just walked all day. And we walked all the way back down, and we camped in the same spot that we had camped in the day before. And Josh got out his maps, because he's that good, and he found a different mountain for us to hike over the next day, and we avoided that goat. So that is our only animal story. Like, that is it at the end. People ask about people. So there was one man in California. We met him. He was sitting on like the milk crates outside of a gas station. He may have been homeless, I don't know. But he wanted to give us money for our charities, and he gave me $10 for our charities and gave us a hug. And super nice. And then like about 10 minutes later, we're walking, he pulls up on his bicycle, and I'll never forget, it was like a different, like his eyes didn't look the same. I mean, I think it was probably mental illness or something. And he accused me of stealing his money. And I was like, oh my God, I did not steal your money. Here you go. And I gave him back his $10. And he kind of threatened us a little bit. But we decided to play it safe. We went into a shop. We called somebody that we knew. And they came and picked us up. So the next morning, like super early, before anybody would be awake, the person dropped us back off at that spot, and we continued our walk. So that is it. That is it. I mean, I don't have a single other. My second story, if you made me name another one, we were in Lake Tahoe, and we're walking along the road, and somebody threw a shoe at us and yelled, "Hi, hippies!" And I'm like, "Hi." And Josh goes, "Why'd you wave?" I said, "Because they said, 'Hi, hippies.'" He said, "They said, 'Die, hippies.'" And that's it. I mean, that is it. 8 months and 8 days. That is the extent of bad stories that I have. I mean, and again, I just hope that like it restores your faith in humanity, like just knowing that that's it. And again, we walked through DC, Cincy, Southern Chicago, Lincoln, Des Moines, Denver, San Francisco, countless small towns, and nothing but kindness. And I know I already said this before, I'll say it 1,000 times, but I literally don't look at people the same way. Like, there's just a kindness in their eyes that I see, that I swear I didn't see before this hike. And I'm thankful for it. The most beautiful state. So this is kind of fun. Colorado Colorado, we hit, I don't know if it's like that all year, but we hit it at the most beautiful, like wildflowers, colors everywhere. Just here I am struggling up this mountain every single day, but at least when I look to my left or my right, it's really pretty. The mountain views, like being up on top of the Rockies and all you can see is the snow-covered peaks as far as you can see, like super cool. And I still say out of all my travels, the most peaceful place in the world that I've seen, I've not been everywhere, but is a mountain lake. No buzzing from electrical wires, no car in the distance. Like, it is the most peaceful, and there's something about crossing over these rocky mountains and coming on this green, like, oasis with this beautiful blue water. Like, Lake Ann, if you made me name my favorite, it was Lake Ann. Like, that was my favorite spot on the whole hike. If you made me name a second, just because I like to be thorough, Utah, what is it? Perfect. I got it. Thank you. The Utah was my second favorite, and I would just say this. Utah was like being on a different planet, but not just one planet. Like, it was like multiple planets. Like, I thought Canyonlands, Capitol Reef, Bryce, Zion, they're all so close together. I thought they would all be so similar, and they're not. It is like a different planet for each one. So super cool. This was the #1 most asked question by anyone ever on the hike. And I find it so funny because it's not what I think of. Like, I would think of a million things to ask myself before this. But how many pairs of shoes did I go through? 5. I went through 5 pairs of shoes. When I hit the foam, I called my brother and had him mail me out a new pair of shoes. So 5 pairs of shoes all the way to the foam across America. You know what's funny is I was kind of nervous, but I timed this really well. I got a couple more slides. Would I ever hike across America again? So I get this question a lot too. While on the hike, people ask me this, and the answer was no. Like, no, I would never do this again. I was so tired, like every day. My feet hurt and I was tired. I would bicycle it. If you bicycle, you get to cover more miles, you get to do little off skirts. You get to talk to people longer. I mean, there's so many people that I met, and I talked to them for 5 or 10 minutes, but that's all I could give them. And I wish I could have, given them more. But I do say, the other thing about cycling is you can carry way more gear, not as hard on your body. Right? You like the cycling, right? Yeah. And then the other thing too, like I said, you're literally on a time crunch. The entire time you're walking, you're like, Sierras, 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 like keep going. I will say though, like reminiscing and thinking about it, in all honesty, like I think I could be convinced. I think part of me would love to see, I was in my 20s, part of me would love to see like what an experience like this would be 20 plus years later. And I do joke, if one of my boys ever asked me to do this someday, I could be, not today, he asked me last week to do it and I said no. So he's 9, no. But I do think I would entertain it. Okay. So I will say it is funny talking about this hike. I am not sharing as many individual stories or interactions as I thought I would, but honestly it's because they're overwhelming. Preparing to do this talk today, it took me kind of on a nostalgic trip down memory lane. I was reading through my online trail journal. A good friend of mine, Ryan, actually printed this off for me. So that's my whole trail journal printed off. So it's kind of cool to be able to see it. And it just kind of took me like to remember all of the things that happened. Like, I could just go on and on. We stayed with the Glover family. Travis was the little boy that had NF, and he had this big Elvis cutout in Maryland. And we hung out with the Goodies in their garage with their buddies in Illinois. And Dorothy in Iowa sent me on my way with half a dozen hard-boiled eggs in a baggie. We stayed with a couple. So I'll try to, they asked me if I had cats, and I was like, yes, I have 2. And they were like, you don't have cats. I was like, I just said I have 2 cats. And they were like, you don't have cats. They had 19 cats. We stayed with them, and I'll never forget, we opened the door, and you could tell they had cats, and we went up to this room, and there was a door that was shut, and they were like, you can sleep in here. This is the only room where cats are not allowed. They open the door, and a cat runs out. Like, We stayed in a 3,000 square foot guest house on a pear farm in California. We slept in old school barbershop chairs in Cincinnati. The Miller family in Crested Butte gave us our stroller. The Green family in Grand Junction literally treated me like I was their daughter. When Jude was born, they sent me gifts for Jude's birth. We met Craig and Annette Fisher-Keller in San Francisco, and we visited them since the hike. We stayed with countless neurofibromatosis families across America. We met amazing people in rural towns and big cities. And then there were just so many people that kept in touch and followed the hike along the way. And then again, Jeremy, like literally, I can't think about life the same just because of who Jeremy was throughout his struggles. I will say, I pictured the hike being more Forrest Gump-like. Like, I thought I was gonna meet people, and they're like, sweet, I wanna walk with you. Like, nobody walked with us, like nobody. Like, everybody just wanted to feed us. Like, that's what they did. My brothers came out and hiked part of it. A friend that I ran with in college, Joe, and his buddy came out and hiked part of it in Bryce. Yeah, right there. Debbie and Stacy were hiking the CT, the Colorado Trail, when I met. Josh left the hike. They wanted me to walk with them. They called me and were like, can you walk with us just to keep you safe through the mountains? I mean, just incredible people. And we did get to experience hike with some people. Like my brother hiked with us in like out of Cincinnati, and I'll never forget like the wind. He was so wind burned, and like just the way that somebody else's body aches from doing it for one day, like just kind of randomly. It makes you feel good. And then I will say too, I told my boys they're gonna help me with this part. Here. My Aunt Judy made me this quilt. Here, Jace, I have that little, there you go. You're good, right there. My Aunt Judy is incredible. She followed my whole hike, and then she made me this quilt. You're okay, you're gonna be blinded. Jude's lucky. So she made me this quilt. It has like a lot of the major stops kind of along the way marked. And then the cool side though is this side. She did a chronological pictures of kind of the hike, some of the people that we met, the panels where you see the names, in order. We went through my trail journal and we noted every single person that like touched our lives or were part of the hike along the way. Even my college coach donated, Coach Hadsel, donated some hotel rooms. We practiced this at home. So I asked him if he wanted a stool, and he said no. So yeah, just super cool, super meaningful, and like as much as I can talk about the gear and the views and the challenges and the lessons, it was the people. Like it was literally the people. And that made the hike the special thing that it was. So yeah, so there you go. Thank you, boys. Thank you. Thank you. Yep. I don't know what time it is, but I think that's the end.
Oh, is it time for questions?
Do you have a good question?
Yes, too.
What is it?
When did you name the goat?
You know what? I feel like we did name him, and now I can't remember. I'm going to have to read the trail journal.
So, when you read books, did you read Holes when you were in the desert?
I had never heard of that until Yvonne mentioned the movie Holes. No, I did not know that was, I'm sorry, I missed out on life by not reading that in the desert. I did read The Alchemist, though. If you want a really cool experience, walk across the desert reading The Alchemist. Like, that was another life game changer.
What else did you read?
Ishmael. I read a bunch of books.
How many people hugged you?
Thousands.
How many books did you read?
A lot. Yep. And then Kathy Green sent me this cute little iPad thing, this little thing with like audiobooks. And that was like, I think when audiobooks, like, I didn't even know that was, I mean, it was pretty cool. Like it was, and she had already preloaded them, so that was kind of neat too. But yeah, lots of books.
1 to 10, how much fun did you have?
I'll say a 9, because I really was tired and sore.
How many animals did you run into? Just those goats?
Just the goats. What were you gonna?
Did you have any trouble acclimating back?
Yes, so that's a thing. So that is a real thing. So I read studies on it before even going on the hike. When you do something like this, your life changes. Like you change. when you get home, you want to share, and you want to, and you get home, and other people, nothing's really different. It's almost a depression that you go through, like an adjustment of like kind of getting back into things, which is probably why I literally kept going. I did some other stuff afterwards, but it was more like I just felt like disconnected. And then, and again, you're so enthusiastic, like you want to share what just your experiences, but nobody gets it. Like and you can't. Yeah, that's definitely a thing. If anybody, yep.
Jodi, did you carry a water filter?
Yes, so, but only for parts of the hike. So throughout most of the time, we stopped at gas stations and filled our water. But across the desert, yep, we carried this, and we also carried iodine tablets. And if we ever felt like we were unsure of the water source, we did the filter and the iodine tablets.
So you were carrying a lot of water at any one time.
2 liters, yep.
And you said you tanked water across the entire state of Utah?
And Nevada. So
How much water?
5 gallons every 15 miles.
With that water when you got there, that's a lot of weight.
I know. So again, I don't know if we thought that through all the way, and that's why I'm glad we took the stroller. So to be honest, those caches are still out there. Like we never went and got them or anything. They will decompose eventually. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Did you write a book about yourself?
So I love to write. I'm a short story writer. I love to write. It's like what I do. No, I have an online trail journal, like I said, that my friend printed it off. I always joke that one day, maybe when I'm old and can't do all that I do, maybe I'll sit down and create a book. I don't know. I would love to. I mean, I think it's meaningful. But yeah, that's it. But the journal is online. Yeah. What?
How much money did you raise for the NF?
Oh, good question. Not as much as we thought. I mean, I forget. If you made me name a number, I thought maybe we were near like $25,000 for both charities, but it was more about awareness, and then it wasn't quite the publicity that we thought. We also finished November 8th. Like in California, a few days after Obama was elected, and so it was like the hype in California was, and then there was a major thing that got overturned in California that year, and like I remember being like, oh, this is gonna be a big deal, and instead it really wasn't. I mean, so it's okay.
You finished at Point Reyes, you said?
Mm-hmm.
Was the last segment that beautiful trail over the mountain and down to the beach?
Yes, yep. So San Francisco, we walked through San Francisco and then hiked the 43 miles over. It was a pouring down, rainy, dreary day. And when we got to the end of the hike across America, I remember we stood there and we said, what are we gonna do? We didn't even plan it. We walked for 8 months and we didn't even know what we were gonna do when we hit the ocean. And it was so wet and cold that in my head, we were gonna dive in. But we walked in about this deep and we were like, that's good. Oh, yes.
How many ticks did you get?
A lot.
How many? Was there ever a wildfire?
Yes.
Did you
This kid's never asked me this many questions.
ever get any bad injuries?
Nope.
Also, you said you walked through any type of storms. Would you walk straight through a tornado?
Not through it. I'd probably not make it. So, yeah.
Was there any scenery that you could go without ever seeing again if you got tired of it?
The roads. I mean, so when you're walking across America, there's a couple things that you're going to look at. The entire day across the Midwest, you spend the entire day walking towards a water tower. I also cannot drive and look at a water tower the same again. Like, you spend the whole day and you think you're going to come up on it sooner, and it takes forever to walk to this water tower. So yes, water towers get me a little bit. In the desert, it's just a little bit rolling, and you're just kind of walking, and at least it's pretty and different. But the water towers, they get me. Yep. Yes?
Jodi, you losing weight on that?
So honestly, during the hike, I would say Josh did. I swear my body just acclimated to what I was doing. After the hike, though, it's a long journey. journey of life and self-love, and I think I lived a healthier lifestyle like after the hike. So I look back at these pictures, I'm like, oh, I'm a little heavier than what I remember. but yeah, and so that's kind of the, but actually on the hike, not much at all. Yeah.
Did you experience any elevation sickness?
Yeah, so this is funny. So who hikes across America and then decides to hit a 14er? This girl. We met up with some friends in Denver that wanted to hike Mount Elbert, the tallest peak in Colorado. So we did do Mount Elbert as like a side hike, and I definitely got it there. There are days where I had it, like, 'cause I'm a flatlander through and through. I am flatlander. I never got used to it. When we got in the foothills, I cried. Like, foothills, those are supposed to be the easy beginning stuff, and I bawled my eyes out. Like, I was like, how am I going to do this? So yeah, there was some elevation sickness, but being that we were, you got used to it. Yeah. Yes.
What did you do once you were done with them?
We joked that we were going to turn around and walk back. But no, actually, I spent that, so I came home, and I wanted some time to reflect. I actually went up north, not on Papa's house, by myself, and I spent a winter by myself up in the UP. And so funny story, I don't know if you've ever spent a winter by yourself in the UP, but when I didn't see anybody. So like when I finally went into town, like just to see people, and I stuttered. I had a stutter. Like I formed a stutter because I had not talked for so long, and when I heard my voice, I wasn't used to hearing my voice while talking, and I was stuttering. It went away, but yeah, so I spent the winter by myself.
What'd you do with the boxes that you got on the mail drop or whatever?
I ended up probably recycling them.
But like, what'd you do with them when you're on the hike?
Probably recycled them.
So did you carry them with you?
We put them in our backpack. Yep. So yeah, no, thank you guys. I really appreciate you guys being a part of this and letting me kind of share. I appreciate it. Yep.
Seriously, I don't know about you, but like, I feel very refreshed.
Oh,
I'm
good.
like so excited to go outside and like talk to people. And, like,
Right?
oh, I'm so excited.
Yes.
I'm glad this is my job.
Yes.
So thank you all so much for coming. We have one more Basecamp story talk, and that is in February. I just looked at the date and I just forgot it, but it is wcparks.org, or it's on the Oak Leaf program guides at the back of the room. It is with kayaker Eric Slough, and he is going to be talking about his adventures kayaking around the Pictured Rocks National Lake Shore.
We've done that.
He's got all sorts of different adventures and stories too. And one more big question I have for you, actually. If you know anybody who has similar adventures to Eric, or to Jodi, or to Mike, who was the talk earlier, he biked from Seattle to San Diego for MS awareness and relief. If you know anybody like that, please take my card at the back. We're looking to do this series again next year, and I'm looking to fill those spots already. So please contact me if you know anybody about that. Thanks so much. Drive safe. Take more cookies.
Yeah.
And I hope you
My kids will hear that.
Great drive home.
No.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was really sweet. Awesome. No, it was fun.
I'm like, seriously, this is like a breath of fresh air.
Good.
It's like this whole.
Good.
It was great.
It was
Sign at the door.
Sure. It was good for me actually to like kind of be able to just share it again. Like I've never. That was fun. I really enjoyed it. Thank you. Yes. Thank you for being a part of that.